Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to D-Love Journey. If you are new here, my name is Tydesia, but the fam calls me Deja D, and so can you. Thank you for being here. Go ahead and like this video right now. It helps to spread out the channel so other people can find us. And yeah, let's go ahead and get straight into it. So I had originally did the Silent Patient book club. Oh, okay. All right, sorry, that's my kitten. I have a new baby kitten. Her name is Soleil. She's 3 months old, so you will probably hear her ripping and running in the background, wreaking havoc. That's okay. Soleil. Okay, so anyways, I had originally did my book club meeting for the Silent Patient Live. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to post it. Not really sure if a lot of people were wondering like, where's the video, this and that. So I wanted to just post a regular video with a summary of everything that we had went over, ending up this book club meeting here. So that way, if anybody who had caught the video in maybe the in-between time of the book club wanted to kind of get a rundown of the end, you weren't missing out. So for those of you who haven't already seen it, go ahead and check out the first book club meeting that we held live here and then come back to this one. If you're just kind of wanting the full wrap up, then you're in the right place, okay? So we were reading The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. This was quite a reader, I'm gonna tell you. I really enjoyed it. It was a very easy read for me. One thing I realized in doing the book club previously is that, you know, everybody reads on a different pace. So definitely thinking that moving forward, I would do, because I read quickly, and, you know, I don't want to pressure a timeline for people, especially in my community. This is something new that we're trying. So I definitely don't want to make it something that's like a task to be done. I will probably just do book reviews in the future. So that way you guys have a general idea of the book. If it sounds interesting to you, then you can go ahead and pick it up and read it for yourself. And then you can always come back and let me know if you liked it or not. But for this book, we did a full book club where we met and we talked about it in real time. And so I just wanted to give the second part to this book club meeting for you guys. So in the second chunk of book club, we did parts 3, 4, and 5 in this book. And where we last left off, basically what had happened was the full breakdown in the medical hospital where Alicia had an incident, we'll say, and Theo was given her diary, her journal. And so that kind of gave her perspective of what had happened to him, because from that point, she literally hadn't spoken to him, you know? So it was a big game changer in the storyline of the book. So in part 3, Theo got the journal and was able to read her inside scoop, because like I mentioned in the first video, a lot of the perspectives of the people around her, like her friends and family members, was very different than Alicia's accounts in her journal. I would say like people thought they had a better relationship with her than they actually did in her perspective. So for Theo to have that perspective of how Alicia actually viewed the people in her life was a big game changer. So we started off hot in part 3 with her kind of giving more information about the mysterious person that she thought was following her and watching her. Her partner didn't really believe her, unfortunately. She didn't share it with many other people. She didn't report it to law enforcement or anything like that. So it was kind of just something that she was processing and dealing with on her own. And I thought it was pretty interesting to kind of get a deeper look into her life, because part 3 just laid it all on the line as far as that interaction went. Barbie, one of the characters that was a self-proclaimed bestie of Alicia before she was convicted for this murder and put into the hospital, said that she believed the reason why everything went down with her and her husband was because of this unknown stalker, basically, that was wreaking havoc in Alicia's life. And so in part 3, we learned the full backstory of her experiences and kind of what that was creating in her life, we'll say. So in part 4, we kind of get to see Theo's perspective of how he processed everything in the diary. And you could tell that he was doing a lot of digging, yet again, going back to speak to her friends and things like that to figure out what had happened to Alicia and trying to kind of connect with her and to get her to talk yet again. And so I really enjoyed going through the end of the book because a lot of the beginning parts 1 and 2 were a lot of build up into this point. And then I feel like once we hit part 3, it's like we hit the peak and then everything just started to fall into place, which was really good. Without actually spoiling too much of the book, yet again, because if you decide to read this, I don't want it to be spoiled for you. I will say that my perspective of Alicia completely shifts and changes through the second part of the book because we learn that a lot of the things people didn't know about Alicia were really heavy things, we'll say. She had a lot of trauma and a lot of things that had happened to her, especially in her childhood and her family life, that it didn't seem like she shared very often. And I think that with this new development of the stalker, we learned a lot about how kind of like her mental space was prior to the alleged murder of her husband. And we also learned a lot more about Theo too. And if you did catch the first video, again, it was, I put it up in a card up in this video so you guys can check on that. But if you did watch that video, then you know that I gave my opinion in saying that Theo and Alicia were very similar in a different kind of way. So their upbringings, their relationships with their fathers and their family was very toxic, we'll say. And the way that they handled that trauma was completely different. Obviously, they led to different places, but there were a lot of similarities between the two that kind of alarmed me. I wasn't really sure what Theo's intentions were as far as his treatment with her because he did seem very obsessive. And as a therapist, there are lines that you just don't cross. And I found that he had a very thin line of professionalism when it came to dealing with Alicia specifically. You might hear my dog in the background. I got 2 fur babies, so they are just living their best life right now. So if he starts barking, it's probably because a package is getting delivered. Disregard. But anyways, so in part 5, we pretty much, the shit hits the fan. Let me just be honest with you. Yet again, without me spoiling the plot twist or anything for you, let's just say a lot of dirt comes to light, honey. I'm talking things that you wouldn't even expect. So that's something I really did appreciate about this book, the plot twist of it all, and kind of like the big reveals, we'll say, of Theo's true intentions and Alicia's true actions really come to play. There was a big secret that we discovered with Theo Faber's wife. If you watch part 1, you'll know a little bit more about it. And I definitely wanted to know what my fellow readers had thought about it. Like if it was something that was going to be significant later on in the book. And yes, absolutely it was. Absolutely it was. So I'll just say that there was a lot of weird things going on in both Theo Faber's life and in Alicia Benson's life. And so all of that comes to light towards the end of the book, especially in part 5. And we learned some things about both of them that are really stunning. And the way it all ends is just kind of like, what the hell just happened? Like, what the hell just happened? So I did like the book. If I were to rate it, I would probably give it like a 7 out of 10. just because, you know, it had a really good plot twist in it. It was sort of predictable, not exactly, but kind of, just because like I have the kind of mind where I'm always like digging, trying to figure out what exactly happened. And I had a feeling, but it was still an enjoyable read getting up to that point. I do wish that in the end of the book, it didn't just kind of like punch you in the face and just leave you there. I wish there was a little bit more that they gave us in regards to like what happened after, and like I just needed a little bit more. It left me hanging, wanting more, but not in like a good way. So that's why I would say like a 7 out of 10 compared to like an 8, 9, or a 10. But it's definitely a good read. It's a good read. I would recommend it. And I do want to go through the remainder of the discussion questions, because in part 1 of the video, we did go through that, and I wanted to finish off the discussion questions for the book club. Again, in the live video, it obviously would be a little different. So this is just going to be my recap and my opinions regarding the book and the questions. So we left off on question number 5, I believe. And so question number 5, and the discussion questions are in literally right after the acknowledgement. So around page 327, I'd say. 325 are the acknowledgements. So I'm reading from there. Question number 5 says, both Alicia and Theo had difficult childhoods early on. Theo says no one is born evil. That who we become depends on the environment in which we are born. By the end of the novel, he appears to change his mind, saying that perhaps some of us are born evil, and despite therapy, we remain that way. Which do you think is true? So, I am a person who went to school for psychology and sociology, and so I understand that it could go both ways. It could go both ways. There are some things like the nurture versus nature debate. There are some things that people innately are. There are certain traits that we are born with that we don't necessarily choose, you know, like how we interact with people, whether we're introverts, extroverts, our tendencies towards not just how we socialize, but how we process information. Those things are kind of innate. They are our nature. However, a lot of who we are is definitely conditioned or changed by nurture or our environments, the experiences that we have. And I think that someone who may have been born innately one way can, through conditioning, become a different way. And so when they ask if I think someone is born evil, I don't like to use the word evil. Evil is a very strong word, but I will say I do believe some people are born with less regard towards others. And I think that through conditioning, it can either become better or worse. And I do think therapy is a big tool in being able to learn yourself and kind of remove the conditioning and the external factors that you have experienced. But it also matters how soon we get that therapy, how long we've gone with this trauma without it being, healed or worked through, and how far we can literally work ourselves through that process. So I would have to, I guess, technically disagree with Theo's idea that some people are just born evil and they'll always be evil. Even though that is something that does happen, I do believe that through work and through like actually catching things early and a change in environment and the change of love poured into a person, it can significantly change and grow and expand that person if it's what they want. However, if it's not something that they're interested in, then of course people will continue to be who they are. So that is my answer on that. Number 6 question says, weather plays a large role in the book, such as the heat wave during the summer. What purpose do you think the description of the weather serves in the novel? So weather plays a huge role in our lives in general, right? How we feel. Some people prefer hot, some people prefer cold. Everybody's different. So I think in the novel, the purpose of like the heat wave, for example, in the summer is kind of to give that feeling of chaos. I think that heat is often associated with chaos, a lot of action, a lot of things moving around. It tends to have a really strong effect on the body and the mind. When people are hot, they say people go crazy. You know, people are more likely to do things that they wouldn't normally do just because your physical body is feeling uncomfortable, right? And so I think the purpose in the novel of the description of the heat wave is to kind of give this feeling of unsettledness and uncomfortableness, and to kind of put you in this perspective where you almost expect things to go buck wild. And even though in the moments that they expressed the hot weather, there weren't significant big things that were going buck wild, it definitely gave this feeling of like anxiety and kind of just like waiting for something to pop off. And I feel that's the purpose of the weather being described that way. And I think it worked well also. So question number 7 says, do you think the word of a psychiatric do you think the world of a psychiatric unit was convincingly portrayed? How do you feel about Diomedes and the other psychiatrists? I can't say that I am familiar with the world of the psychiatric unit. I have worked with people in care facilities, as far as like teenagers and kids that are placed there, and that have multiple levels of, we can say, conditions or behavioral conditions, or even like disabilities, different levels of being on the autism spectrum, just all types of different things. And so I will say that I can relate to the, I think they called it the fishbowl, which is where all the staff would like kind of chill. That place within the facility is like, it's where you get to kind of take off your coat, take off your hat as a care provider and be who you are, you know? And so I could definitely relate to that, because we had that in our facilities. However, I don't know on the medical standpoint or the psychiatric standpoint how accurate it is, but I will say that in any job, there are some people that get along better than others. There are some like office beefs. There are some office romances. There are some people who handle the clients or, you know, the people who you care for very by the book. And there are some people who bend the rules a little bit. So that definitely existed within this novel. And I can say I relate to that being accurate. As far as Diomedes, I think he was an interesting character. He was definitely one of those people who I would call a vet, like someone who's been there a while, been in the game a while. And I think that he handled his clinic the best he could. I mean, the clinic was on its way to being closed down. He had kind of like had this air about him of just like, you know, hanging on by a prayer, hanging on by a thread. And so, you know, I think that in a realistic care unit, that would kind of be the vibe. But again, it's in my opinion. Question number 8 says, we never enter Kathy's mind in the book. Do you have any sympathy for her? I'm trying not to spoil it. However, I will say I don't have a lot of sympathy for her now. I don't, because I feel as though we're all adults at the end of the day. And our choices that we make, especially regarding the people that we love, should be filled with integrity. I do believe ultimately you do have to do what's best for you at the end of the day. You know, your happiness is the most important. However, it doesn't mean at the expense of others. I don't know the inner workings of their relationship. Kathy is Theo's wife, by the way. I don't know the inner workings of their relationship. However, I can see how Theo would have been a difficult person to kind of be with and to read, because I said even from literally part 1 when I did this video, he was a weirdo. In my opinion, he was a weirdo. However, I don't think there's sympathy for someone who seems to disregard others' feelings. That's what I'll say. So that's my opinion on that, and I'm gonna just leave that right there because I don't want to spoil it. Question number 9 says, what do you think happened at the end of the book? The last line is ambiguous. That's what I was saying before as far as why I gave this book a little lower of, I guess, rating than I would have. I feel like I would have given it a better rating had the ending been a little bit better. I think that, honestly, because I'm going back to read the last line of the book, I really want to know more. I want to know more. I want to know what happened. Like, I feel like they kind of just didn't wrap everything up in a pretty little bow, which doesn't always happen in a book, so I can understand that. But I also feel like there was just so much left unsaid and so much left unknown that it, like, where's the second book? Like, where's the follow-up story, Alex? Like, and so, what do I think happens at the end of the book? I don't want to spoil it, but let's just say the way that things were left, it doesn't look like it ended very well for anyone. We'll say that. And lastly, question number 10, it's a psychological thriller with a twist. The author has said he was influenced by Agatha Christie. Did you feel this was simply a detective story, or are there other influences you can spot? So I will be honest in saying I cannot compare Agatha Christie's work because I'm not familiar. I'm just gonna be real. However, definitely did feel as though it had detective story vibes because Theo was on this hunt of piecing together Alicia's story, what had happened, especially with her not speaking and not talking. If I were to point out another influence that I spotted, I would more so compare, and this isn't going to be a book, so all you book lovers don't come for me, but I'm just going to be honest. I'm going to compare this to a show, and the show may actually be inspired by a book that I'm not aware of. And if it is, y'all, let me know because I'd love to read it. But if you've ever watched on Netflix the show You, I would compare it to that. It's like an obsessive kind of like thriller story / detective story. So it's kind of like along those lines to me. It definitely is a psychological thriller though. Shh, Cash. It's okay. It's okay. It definitely is a psychological thriller at heart for sure. So I will say that. And yeah. So the book club conversation with the author. I'm not really going to go into that, but basically if you do get the book, he basically goes through and he answers these questions himself to kind of give his insight on it. Let's see. It also includes 5 best plot twists in fiction. So I'm going to share these with you guys in case you want to go pick them up. It has 5 Little Pigs by Agatha Christie. So maybe I can educate myself on who she is. It also has The Portrait of a Lady by Henry James, A Good Soldier by Ford Madox Ford, and Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn, which I am familiar with that one. Good plot twist. I think they made it into the Netflix, or not the movie Gone Girl, so that kind of gives you an idea like what the plot twist energy is. And then Rebecca by Daphne de Maurier. Each of these novels, in Alex Michaelides' opinion, is a really great plot twist. So I probably will pick up a couple of these. It does give a description of the books, so I'm not going to really go into reading those. But you can always run this back and look them up if you'd like. And then last but not least, his next book, there's a little snippet in here. It's called The Maidens. Now, I didn't read the snippet. I'm going to read it. However, I will say one of the people at my job told me, and she's an avid book reader and avid true crime person. So like we definitely have bonded in that area of loving to read and loving true crime. So I trust her opinion is what I'm saying. She said The Maidens, his second book, is much better than this one. When I told her I was reading this book, she was like, let me know what you think, you know? But she said that The Maidens was a better book, or a better novel, I'll say, compared to this one. And so I might give that one a try, because I don't think this was a bad novel. However, I'd be interested to see what better for him looks like. We'll say that. And so yeah, overall, I definitely would recommend this book. I would say pick it up on Amazon, or pick it up somewhere where you can get it for cheap, because it's $17.99, and I don't know about that. But yeah, I hope that this is good suffice for those of you who did miss the live version of everything. So sorry for the delay. I've been having a lot of technical difficulties with getting this recorded, getting it up, and all that good stuff. So for those of you who want to pick up the book, definitely pick up the book. And moving forward, when I do read a good book, what I'll do is I'll come on here and I'll just do a full review of the whole book. That way you don't have to feel pressured or constricted within a timeline to read it. You can just pick it up on your own if it feels like your jam, and you can get into it, and just hit me up on Instagram or whatever else and let me know what you think about it. So yeah, that's it for this. Thank you guys for chilling out with me, just coming here natural and just sharing the energy. Wanted to make sure I follow up and maintain what I said I would do with letting you guys know how the book ended. Thank you for everyone who has been there live for me and who has actually participated in the book club. I appreciate you. And for those of you who are catching this after, I hope you enjoy the book, and I look forward to bringing another good one to you. For now, I'm just going to leave you guys with a bunch of love as always. I hope that you guys are learning yourself more and more every day, and that you are taking the time to love up on yourself in this journey of life. I am going to ask you, please, if you haven't already, like this video. It really does help me out a lot. Send some love in the comments, just send some hearts, or if you have any questions or any recommendations, go ahead and drop those. And if you're not already a part of the family, then what are you waiting for? Go ahead and subscribe. There are plenty of more videos that I will be putting up. I have a couple of things that I'm going to work on probably later today or tomorrow. So I will be back and better for you. I'm going to go ahead and say peace, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.